Hey guys, welcome to Johnson's video channel. So as you can see, today is the first time that I put some makeups on for my YouTube video recording because I just learned how to do makeup a couple of days ago. So I hope, my fingers are crossed that my makeup today is gonna cut it. Anyway, so in my previous videos I did some book reviews, but I also mentioned that it takes a lot of time for me and also for you to read books in order for me to do any book review, and also for you to watch my book review videos in a more meaningful and beneficial ways for yourself. So during the intervals when I'm not doing any book review, I could do some stuff that's more related to language learning itself. So for example, together we can learn expressions that we can get from just reading a certain book, or even other things like watching a YouTube video, or watching a movie, or singing or listening to a song, or reading a really short news article, or whatever. So anything that could count as a language learning input could be included in my video. So together we're going to learn English in this very meaningful and very contextualized way. So today, as you can see, I put some makeup on especially, so maybe you can guess what our topic today is going to be. Yeah, we're going to talk about makeup. So I'm going to do a series of makeup English videos, not just to kill time, not just to give you something when I'm not doing book review, but also to grapple with multiple themes, multiple topics that we will encounter in our daily life, so that our English learning could really come alive. So for my makeup English series, I'm going to talk about some products that you will encounter in your daily life when you are talking about doing makeup with your friends, or even when you are just watching some YouTube tutorials on doing makeup from beauty gurus. And aside from the products, the words for those products, we can also learn expressions that are used to describe ways in which we can implement or apply those products on our skin, how to use this product. So there might be a lot of verbal expressions that we can learn, and is specific to this topic. And we can also learn expressions that are used to compare and contrast different beauty products, and ways in which we can describe our skin tones, our skin textures, or just any sort of stuff that is related to skin type. And we can also try to see if we could transfer all the expressions, all the language that we learned specific to this topic of makeup to some other context, to some broader context, so that the expressions that we learned in this topic could also be used in a lot of other topics. Without further ado, let's get started. In our first ever YouTube video on makeup English, it will comprise of mainly two things. The first thing consists of all the words for the most basic beauty products. Those products are the products that you will inevitably encounter whenever you talk about doing makeup, or whenever you watch a makeup tutorial. And then the second thing is about the verbal expressions, or any sort of expressions related to how to do makeups, how to put makeup on, or stuff like that. Okay, so let's now talk about the first thing, the words for different beauty products. So now let's start grappling with the vocabulary words for the most basic, the most frequently used beauty products. I'll go in the order of the beauty products that are used on your facial skin to the beauty products that are used for eye makeup, and eventually we'll talk about the beauty products for your lips. So let's start with beauty products used for your facial skin. Foundation. What is foundation? Foundation originally means the bottom part of the building where the rest of the building is constructed upon. So it's similar to the meaning of base or basis. In cosmetics, foundation is the first layer of makeup that you lay on your face. Its function is primarily to kind of smooth out your facial color so that it can look really consistent. It doesn't necessarily block out any black spots or any imperfections, but still, it is the first layer. It evens out your skin color, and at the same time, I think it can also protect your skin from the external environment. For that reason, products that can perform those functions can be used as foundation. So when you go to a drugstore or a makeup store, you probably will feel really overwhelmed by all the choices, and all the glass bottles are going to be printed with something, be it the brand of the product or the type of the product, right? So in order to make it definitely easier for you to be able to recognize and identify foundation, I'm going to introduce different types of foundations, and as long as you see those names printed on those glass bottles, you will recognize it as foundation. Okay, so usually the keywords that you definitely should look for is, of course, foundation. Sometimes you will see liquid foundation, full coverage foundation, or flawless finish foundation. So like I said, the single keyword is foundation, but sometimes you will see some other names. There are also foundations, but you might not necessarily know it. For example, liquid mousse, it's also a type of foundation. Liquid powder foundation, and broad spectrum sunscreen. And we can also have tinted moisturizer as the type of foundation, and BB cream. Okay, so now you might wonder, you might have some questions about the meanings of some of the words of those products. For example, you might be wondering, what is the meaning of finish in that context? What about mousse? What about broad spectrum? What about tinted? So finish means the surface appearance of something. In this context, it is the surface of your skin, or you could just think of it as your skin. So a flawless finish foundation might send the message that this type of foundation will make your skin look flawless, look spotless, look immaculate, look just perfect. Okay, so next, mousse. Mousse originally is a type of dessert. It's a type of really airy dish that's made of egg white and cream. So in makeup, in cosmetics, liquid mousse feels just as foamy as the dessert of mousse. And broad spectrum. So broad spectrum sunscreen can protect your skin from all sorts of sun rays. So spectrum means a span of something or a range of something. So when that range is really broad, it means that the sunscreen can protect your skin from a broad range of sun rays that can be harmful for your skin. Okay, and last we have tinted moisturizer. So tint means color. So tinted moisturizer means that the moisturizer has some pigment on it. It has some colors that can match your skin color. So normally moisturizer is transparent, right? You just put it on your face, and then it kind of keep your face from being too dry. But then if the moisturizer is tinted, it kind of serve as the function of a foundation because it can even out your skin tone because it has some color of its own. Okay, so now let's move on to our next product, concealer. The base of this word is the verb conceal. To conceal something means to cover up something, to block something out, to hide something. So as you can tell from its verbal base, concealer will be able to block out any blemishes on your skin that you don't want other people to see, that you want to be rendered invisible. That's how concealer works. Next, we have powder and powder puff. You probably all know what powder is. Powder puff could also be called as cotton pad. Most of you might know puff from this little dessert cream puff, right? So the powder puff in some way kind of looks like cream puff. I guess that's where its name comes from. So next, let's move on to eye makeup. We have eyeshadows and eyeliner. Those are really easy to understand. We'll just move on quickly. So in order to put on all those beauty products, we need brushes or brush set. Those are very important, very indispensable makeup instrument. For your eyebrows, we have eyebrow pencil. You can use brow pencil to fill in your brows so that it can look just more noticeable and more neat. And for your eyelashes, you could either use lash curler or mascara. A lash curler can curl up your eyelashes. A mascara can make your eyelashes look longer and look thicker and just more attractive. But you should also be careful when you use mascara, because your eyes might look really messy if you are not handy with mascara. For which matter, I am none the wiser, unfortunately. So last, we have lipsticks and lip gloss. So what might be the distinction between lipstick and lip gloss? For me, I think lip gloss can give your lips a really stylish shine that the lipstick won't be able to give, but at the same time, the colors of the lipsticks are way more substantial. So now let's give it all a review. And I hope that all those information will prove to be useful to you. And in the information section, I also will link you to my personal blog where all those information, all those materials are presented. Now that you've learned all the words for different beauty products, it's a really logical next step for us to talk about ways in which you can use those products. So we'll talk about those how-tos in the same order as we did with the words and the names of those products. We'll talk about verbal expressions or just any sorts of expressions that you can use in terms of how to apply foundation and concealer and powder. And then we'll talk about we'll move on to eyeshadows and eyeliners, and by the end we'll talk about some other expressions that might not fall neatly into the two categories but might still appear when you watch a YouTube tutorial on doing makeup or when you talk about doing makeup with other people. Okay, so now let's get started. So now let's move on to the second part of our video today, the verbal phrases and other expressions to express the ways in which we use those beauty products. Okay, so first of all, just generally speaking, when we do makeup, we would say we are putting makeup on or we are applying makeup. And you can also use all the vocabulary words that we've just learned of different beauty products to replace the word makeup with. So instead of just saying putting makeup on, you can also say I'm putting some foundation on my skin, I'm applying some concealer under my eyes, I'm putting on some concealer, I'm putting on some eyeshadow on my eyelids, I'm applying eyeshadow, I'm applying lipstick, or stuff like that. So put on and apply are interchangeable. You can use either one and it'll be alright. Sometimes you will also hear people saying things like I'm gonna go in with such and such. When they say I'm gonna go in with this foundation because it is so light, it matches my skin tone so well. It doesn't irritate my skin, and my skin doesn't feel like it's so heavily caked on. So go in with actually just mean they are starting off with a certain beauty products, or they're adopting or using certain products at a certain stage during their makeup. So when you are explaining doing makeup to other people, you can definitely say things like, so first I'm gonna put some foundation on my skin, and then next I'm gonna go in with this concealer. I got this concealer from a CVS store and it was so affordable and I liked it so much, or stuff like that. And then you will sound like a pro, okay? However, you might wonder, what if I want to express a certain way in which I apply a certain product? Are there any more verbs that I can use? Definitely. Even when you're just putting on foundation or putting on lipstick, you definitely have a bunch of different methods that you yourself developed, right? So next we're gonna go in with more details about that. Before we put any makeup on our face, we need to first load our instruments, like our brushes or our fingers, with the makeup at first, right? So when you do that, you dip your finger or you dip your brush into the container of a certain beauty product. For example, you dip your finger into that foundation bottle, or you dip your brush into the compact case of your powder. Or you can just directly say dip your finger or your brush into the foundation or into the powder. Sometimes you could also say you press your brush into the powder. What makes press different from dip is that when you are pressing, you are using more force. But when you are just dipping, you're just like really lightly touching your brush or your finger into the foundation or the powder or whatever beauty products that you're using. Okay, you can also say you run your brush across the powder. When you are saying you are running your brush, you're not talking about how much force you're using, but you are focusing more on the direction that your brushes are going in. There's one more expression that I want to share with you. It will come in handy whenever you are explaining steps of doing makeup, or when you are just watching a tutorial. People will say they will tap off the excess after they're done with loading their brushes with makeup. So what does that mean? When you are tapping off the excess, you are tapping the brush against the edge of the powder container, for example, the powder case, and then the excess of the powder that is no longer useful to you will come off. So here the excess means the part of the powder that you didn't use, that will no longer be useful, that will no longer be needed, so you just need to tap it off. So now after everything is all set, after you've got all the makeup on your brushes or on your fingers, you're ready to put them on your face, right? So what are some of the verbs that we can use to describe ways in which we really apply those products on our face? Of course, you can say you can dot the liquid foundation or dot the concealer onto your face. By dotting it onto your face, you're just like placing a foundation dot onto your face. You could also dab it onto your face, or tap it onto your face, or pat it onto your face, or stroke it onto your face. The 4 words all means to touch a surface in a very, very light way. They are definitely the opposite of rubbing anything into your face, or slapping anything onto your face, or thumping anything down onto your face. So they are very light on the touch. You could also use verbs such as pressing or buffing. So you can press the foundation onto your face or buff it onto your face. Of course, you can just use the word of brushing. So brush not only means the tool itself, Brush itself is also a verb, which means you use the brush, you run the brush over your face. So just to show you how brushing or buffing or pressing are different from dabbing or tapping or patting or stroking or even dotting. Of course, eventually you're going to blend everything out using the brush, which means you are going to diffuse the makeup over your skin so that you can distribute the makeup on your skin really evenly. So eventually, let's move on to eye makeup. When we're talking about eye makeup, we're still using the instrument of brushes, but this time we're focusing less on the force of your motion, but more on the direction of your motion. So you can say you're dragging or pulling or pushing or bringing the brushes from one corner of your eyelids towards the other corner, or you can also say you're dragging it or pushing it or bringing it or pulling it outward or inward. You can also sweep or brush your eyeshadows across your eyelids, or sweep it up or sweep it back and forth. Of course, the verbs are still different. Instead of using tapping anything onto your skin or dabbing anything onto your skin, you're using the verb of sweeping or brushing or dragging or pulling, but this time what's more important lies in your usage of the prepositions, which can indicate the directions that your brush is going in on your eyelids. Of course, you can still use the verb that means touching something slightly. You can still say that you stroke some eyeshadows onto your eyelids. If you want to use that, it's fine as well. When it comes to your brow pencil, usually you are filling in your eyebrows, because most of the time your eyebrows probably look a little bit on the sparse side. That's why we use brow pencils to fill in your eyebrows. When we fill in something, we're actually add colors to that thing. That's why you can also hear people saying things like filling in the sketches, filling in pictures, or stuff like that. Eventually, when people talk about using mascara, they use one special word. They use the word wiggle. So to wiggle means to move in a very exacting way. So you're not moving up and down in a straight line. So why do people wiggle the mascara wand up instead of just like give it one slick, quick pulling? Well, some beauty gurus claim that by wiggling up your mascara wand, you are also separating your eyelashes so that they won't stick together, which will be a really bad thing if it happens. So basically, to wiggle just means to shake a little bit. So in other contexts, you can hear people saying things like, oh, that little kitten is so wiggly, which means that that kitten wiggles a lot. That kitten likes to shake its body a lot. Finally, we have some other expressions that are also very important and very interesting for you to learn. First, to go light on something. You can say to go light on that foundation, to go light on the powder, or to go light on whatever products that you don't want to use too heavily. So to go light on something is to use something in a really moderate way, to not use too much of something. The next expression is to peek through. You probably know peek as to look at something in a very sneaky way, but you probably don't know that when something peeks through, it means it shows through. So for example, you put on concealer because you are preventing any black spots or any pimples from peeking through. So finally, our last expression is called to smudge all over. So when something smudges, it gets very messy. It is smeared all over the place. So for example, if you don't apply eyeshadows or eyeliner really neatly, then the eyeshadows might smudge all over and your eyes might look very grimy, so as to say. So that's all for today's video. We learned about the expressions for different beauty products and the expressions to describe ways in which we can use those products on our own skin. So for our next couple videos, we can talk about expressions that can be used to compare different beauty products, to compare their different properties, their different pros and cons, and also expressions to describe your skin type. And we'll also see if we could use all the expressions we learned specific to this topic about makeup and use them in other contexts, in other topics as well. So like I said, if you think this is useful and you want to watch more about daily English, English in different contexts, then you can give me a thumbs up, or you can also leave me with some suggestions in the comment area. So let me see you next time.